The hitchhiker. On a foggy autumn night, the silence was deafening, broken only by the unsettling crunch of leaves beneath the tires of Sarah's old sedan. She was driving home from a late shift at the diner, her mind adrift as the headlights sliced through the dense mist that engulfed the road, revealing nothing but shadows and the occasional flicker of tree branches swaying in the wind. As she rounded a twist in the road, her heart dropped when she spotted a figure lurking at the roadside. A hitchhiker. He was draped in a tattered coat, the fabric hanging loosely and flapping like dead leaves in the cold breeze. A chill crept down her spine. Something felt deeply wrong. Hesitation pulsed in her veins, yet the night's oppressive cold tugged at her conscience, coaxing her to offer help. Reluctantly, she slowed down. The hitchhiker inched closer, his face swallowed by the shadows cast by her headlights. She could barely make out a wild, unkempt beard and eyes that glimmered with an eerie intensity. "Need a ride?" she asked, her voice a whisper against the suffocating fog. "Thank you," he replied, his voice low and gravelly, almost like gravel scraping against metal. He slid into the passenger seat, and a veil of unease descended between them. She could feel the weight of his gaze, a palpable intensity that made her skin crawl as she concentrated on the road ahead, each passing second feeling longer than the last. "Do you come this way often?" he asked suddenly, breaking the thick silence that cloaked them. "Just headed home," Sarah replied, forcing a lightness to her tone that felt more like a mask than any semblance of comfort. "Home," he echoed, a slow, twisted smile creeping across his face, stretching like a serpent curling around its prey. "You have no idea how far from home you really are." Unease twisted in her gut, but she dismissed it as nothing more than nerves from being alone with a stranger. "Are you headed far?" she asked, her voice quaking slightly in the dimness. "Just a little ways down the road," he replied cryptically, each word dripping with a sense of foreboding. A mile passed, but the air thickened, dense with tension, as if the very fog around them was alive with secrets. Sarah dared to steal glances at the stranger, noting how he almost blended into the shadows, his features obscured. The glow from the dashboard flickered and dimmed intermittently, casting grotesque shapes on his face that twisted and contorted in the low light. "Turn the radio on," he suddenly demanded, his tone darkening. Okay." She turned it on, but the static roared to life, drowning out any music, filling the car with a haunting hiss. The hitchhiker's eyes gleamed with a sinister light as he leaned closer, heat radiating from him as though shadows were swirling within his very being. "I can help you, you know," he murmured, sending icy tendrils of fear racing down her spine. "Help me," she whispered, realization dawning that this was more than just an odd encounter. "Yes, I can show you things," he said, his gaze unrelenting, pulling her in deeper. "Things you can't unsee." In that moment, the lights of the dashboard flickered violently, sparks shooting as the engine sputtered. The road ahead dissolved into an inky black abyss, swallowing everything. Panic surged within her chest, constricting as she gripped the steering wheel. "What are you doing?" she gasped, breath coming in short, desperate bursts. "The journey is only just beginning," he whispered, a chilling grin stretching across his face, devoid of any human warmth. Then the car lurched violently, as if gripped by an unseen force, and everything went black. When Sarah opened her eyes, she found herself sprawled on the roadside, the car gone, and the hitchhiker nowhere in sight. Bewildered, she staggered to her feet, brambles clawing at her arms as the trees loomed ominously overhead, shadows dancing menacingly. Turning to look down the empty road, she caught sight of a faint glimmer through the thickening fog, an old sign that read, "Welcome to Hollow Creek." A wave of dread washed over her. This was the town where she grew up, but it had been abandoned for decades, decimated by a tragic accident that had claimed countless lives. Suddenly, fragments of stories from her childhood flared in her mind. The tales of spectral figures who haunted these roads, who lured unsuspecting souls into the depths of despair. An icy realization settled like lead in her stomach. The hitchhiker was not merely a wanderer. He was a guardian of lost souls, a harbinger of darkness. And now, she wasn't just a passerby. She was part of a malevolent force, entwined in the chilling grasp of a forgotten nightmare that would bind her to this cursed stretch of road forever. In the distance, she heard laughter, echoing, haunting, intertwining with the chilling winds like a siren's call, reminding her that she was never truly alone again in the merciless shadows of Hollow Creek.